all the counselors in any school have the next of kin, and then just tell the next of kin, hey, listen, there's an investigation. We don't want the child to panic. Can you just come and get the child, and we'll explain everything
Well,
when
the
we have
child
more
was
information.
panicked anyway when they got to like the next of kin's house or whatever,
Okay.
and he's like, "Well, where's my mom?" Knowing his mom is always there, so that would have still led to panic. So I guess the difference would have just been he wouldn't have been in school, like going crazy. I guess
Well,
give him a
that's
couple more
true.
hours of peace.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. So at this point, it's pretty clear that there's some foul play. She just did not show up. Now, Kai, I've got some juicy updates though that were not on Unsolved Mysteries. I did a little bit of extra digging here, and
Are we
are
jumping
you?
the gun again, or is it in line with what we're talking about right now?
Well, it's actually the suspects, some of the possible suspects. What do you think about that?
Well, I guess let's talk about that. The fact that they did comb the area, and they did an extensive search of. It was a river, right? There was a river right nearby. They did an
It's called
extensive search
actually,
of the
yes,
river.
it's called Sweetwater River. And that's
Yeah,
actually the area. Or yeah,
and they
Sweetwater.
didn't find
Sweetwater
anything.
Creek. I'm sorry, Sweetwater Creek. But anyway, yeah, that's what it was.
Yeah, and they didn't find anything. And when I say they did an extensive search, they did a crazy extensive search. And the other thing that I wanted to say before you talk about the suspects is, do you remember what happened? So she went missing on the 15th.
Mm-hmm.
Her son at this time is like 17, so he's still in school.
He's
Like
15. 15. He
he
was
was
at
15. I thought
15.
he was
Yeah.
17.
Nope, he was 15 when
Okay,
this happened. Mm-hmm.
okay, so he's still in school. So 15, you're like what, ninth,
Eighth,
10th
eighth
grade?
grade, eighth or ninth. Oh, look at me, eighth grade. Oh no, eighth or ninth grade, maybe? I don't know. I'm thinking eighth or ninth.
Yeah, let's
Because
say 8th or
yeah.
ninth grade.
Yeah.
Okay, so 8th or ninth grade. So you're
Mhm.
still young. You're little. So the next day. So she went missing on April 14th, which is tax day. Tax day. So she went missing
No
on tax
significance if
day.
anyone's wondering.
No, it has no significance. But she went missing on tax day, and the next day, do you know Rob Enders changed the locks on the
Yeah,
house door,
yeah. I was
basically
hoping you would
locking
bring that up. Yeah,
yeah,
that was so
basically
sad.
locking Pistol out of the house without any like
No
warning,
explanation,
no warning. He
nothing.
just came home from school and he couldn't come in the house.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
And
that's so sad.
Rob was like he did that for safety reasons.
No, he's just a jerk. I mean, he's a
So the
child. How do
next
you lock a
thing
child out of his house? That makes
Okay,
no
okay,
sense
okay,
to me.
okay,
I mean,
okay, 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 okay. I know the obvious is he's a child. How do you lock the child out? All this other stuff, but he doesn't like the child. So let's take that out of the equation. We already know he
okay,
hates this kid. So even if you went to his face and was like, "How could you do this?" He would come up with every excuse as to why he was right. So let's take Pistol out of the equation. How could you change the locks on the door the day after your wife, who you claim to be the apple of your eye, goes missing?
mm-hmm.
Aren't you like holding out hope that she's gonna come home like
And just
just
walk in the door. She has a key.
exactly,
I mean,
exactly like 3 o'clock in
geez.
the morning, just come inside like I knew it. I held out hope. Like even people who lose children, they never move, they never change
In
their
the
locks,
bedroom or the
nothing.
bedroom. Everything's in the same
Never
spot.
exactly because they
Yeah,
always have hope. And
exactly.
even
Some
if
people
it's
do
like,
that for
yeah,
years.
my job is moving across country, they're like, no, I can't move. Julia might come home. They don't
Exactly. And I have
move.
to
They
be
don't
here
do
for her when she
anything.
finally comes home.
But
Yeah, I totally
he
agree.
changed the locks the next day. Oh man, dude, I was watching this thing and I was just like yelling at the TV, like bullshit. I was
I mean,
yelling
because
at the TV,
I'm thinking to myself, okay, how do you do that? Because, like you said, well, first of all, can I have my 72 hours, please? Is it a 72?
like right?
You have to be missing
Yeah,
for
it's
3 days,
it
and
was
then you have to be
72.
missing for, yes, I think it has to be officially 3 days, and then, okay, there's obviously, the person's probably murdered or something, but I mean, give me my 3 days before you change the locks. It's just crazy. And
Change
then,
the
I mean,
freaking locks, dude.
yeah, that's really crazy. So, So as the most obvious other thing here, maybe everyone's going to figure this one out. So Pistol goes to eventually to live with his birth father, who was still grieving over her death because Kai, although they didn't stay together as you said, and they did not get married, her ex, but he still loved her very much, and they considered themselves to be best friends. So he was actually grieving over her death just as the son was, but he welcomed his son at that point, to get away from this ridiculous situation with his
Well,
stepfather.
it's a good thing that, he welcomed his son and he didn't just like turn his son away because,
Right.
it's not like his son was really with him a lot. He was more
Yeah.
with his mom. But,
Right.
can you imagine if he was like one of those douchebags that's like, well, you're my son, but I don't know you, so I have my
Can
own
you
family to
imagine if
take
he
care of.
changed the locks? Because that happens too. You go live with your real parent and they kick you out too. I mean, that happens all
Yep.
the time. It's like I never knew you, didn't want you, or don't know you now and don't want to get to know you. So you're gonna have to find somewhere else to go. That's how kids
Yeah.
end up on the streets.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but he actually allowed him, which is, I mean, you don't really give him props for that because that's his dad
Because
and
your
that's your
parent, it's
responsibility.
your
So,
responsibility, right?
so
Mhm.
he let his son stay with him, which was a good thing, or else that little boy would have been homeless.
Exactly.
Um, yeah, um, so you were saying that, all right, so they combed everywhere, they didn't find anything. So then you were bringing up that there were some suspects.
Believe it or not, yes, and this is actually part of the investigation, Kai. So that's why I was like attempting to tie it in. But I get the flow here. That's fine. So after the investigation, there were two possible suspects who could have abducted Patrice on the day of her disappearance. So we've got Jeremy Bryan Jones. Now he claimed that he killed Andre. That he killed Andres. He killed Patrice and dumped her body in the nearby Sweetwater Creek. So when you had mentioned that they combed the creek or they went, they searched the creek. The reason they searched the creek is because Jeremy Bryan Jones said, "Hey, search the creek. I did it. I dumped her body there." However,
No, they said it. They searched the creek before he said it. Then he came forward and said, "Yeah." He gave some. He gave some testimony that the cops hadn't revealed. So he gave some. What's the word I'm looking for? He gave
evidence,
some. Yeah, he gave some evidence that the
information.
cops hadn't revealed to the public. So he gave some stuff that the killer only would have known. But he was like, "Yeah, this is what I did, and I dumped her body in the river," which that's what made the cops be like, hmm, maybe not, because I know that we dredged this river for like 150 days and we didn't find anything. We found sharks, we found turtles, we even found
Hmm.
an occasional dolphin.
Hmm.
We found the diamond from the Titanic, but we daggone sure did not find a woman in there. So they knew they did an extensive search, and he's like, "Yeah, I dropped her body in there," and
Yeah,
so
he
that's
he
that's
was
what gave
he
them
was
pause.
well, he was really at that point, I guess, just taking them on a wild goose chase. But here's the thing that doesn't make sense to the authorities, though. The creek was 70 miles away, and Jones had no further evidence. This is what they said in the reports. No further evidence other than what was on the local news. So they let him go. And then before they let him go, he ultimately recanted his entire confession. So then he comes back and says, "Okay, actually, I didn't throw her body in the creek. I didn't dump her body in the creek. Actually, I didn't do it." This is after the fact. After all, like you put the authorities through all of this. Like as you said, Kai, even if they did comb the creek first, he's still backtracking everything. 70 miles away, they have to go look again. Apparently, after they've already done it, because he said, "Oh yeah, I dumped her body there." Then after that, I don't know if it was days later, but he's like, "Oh no, no, I'm going to take that back. I actually did not." I mean, that's ridiculous. So that was not mentioned at all on Unsolved Mysteries. Now there's also a possible well, there was a second suspect. Did you hear about this one, Gary Hilton? Did you hear about him? He has a degree
No,
in
I
criminology.
only knew there was one. Well, I only remember there was one. So
Okay,
what's the second one?
yeah, yeah. So the second one, and this is definitely something that wasn't mentioned in Unsolved Mysteries for sure. They missed this. So this person, his name was Gary Hilton. He has a degree in criminology. He was very attractive. He was an artist type. He's actually a movie director, producer, as well as having a degree in criminology. So he was also known later on, unfortunately, he was known as the National Forest serial killer. So what happened
Good
was,
Lord.
yeah, that's what a title, right? So Gary Hilton committed a string of slayings way before this, anyway. All young women in Florida. There's our state, Kai. In Florida, I had to say that for our bonus episodes. I'm sorry. North Carolina and Georgia. So, now, oddly, Hilton was also a consultant. This is definitely juicy. There was a film in 1995 called Deadly Run. In fact, Kai, I'm going to look this film up because I have to tell you the trailer looks really good, and I'm just going to encourage our listeners to do the same because it looks like something worth seeing. But it was called Deadly Run, and so here was the plot. So Gary Hilton says, here's my suggestion. I suggest that we make the film about a serial killer, right? Here's the plot, who stalks his female victims in the woods. And because the setting of the film, like the actual setting of the film and in real life, what's happening, with this murder, takes place in a huge national forest. So in Gary's mind, it's a great game for him, for Hilton, because he knows
Wow.
that, you see what I mean? Because he knows they cannot likely get away. And if they did get away, Kai, they would ultimately die from weather or starvation or even wild animals. So unfortunately,
Wow.
yeah, so unfortunately, Hilton was also let go after the trial. Not enough evidence. You know why? Because he has a degree in criminology. So he knows how to hide these things. They had to let him go. That's the second bird that got away. Woo!
Hmm.
You want to pick it up from there, Kai?
Yeah, I don't remember. I don't remember about him.
Well, that wasn't
But
in that wasn't in the story. That was not in Unsolved Mysteries at all. There was some other information out there, some other links, some other stories and discoveries, and they were saying that they absolutely didn't even catch that for some reason. In their discovery, they didn't catch that at all, and that's important. I mean, for all we know, he could have actually killed her. He already killed several people. He literally is a serial killer. In fact, there's a little boy they talked about. Unfortunately, he was around 9 years old who ended up in the same place in Georgia, not far from where
oh wow.
Patrice's body was. Yeah, around the same time period, and they did link him to that murder. And so I'm going, hello, okay, they need to real. If it were my family, Kai, well, if I have the money, I guess you'd have to have raise money, to do this to the capital because it's expensive. But I think I would. I think I have to, you know, dig a lot deeper and maybe hire some other investigators outside of what the state assigns to you because there's just too much. There's too many connections of certain people in which they should have been able to find out. Like this should not be an unsolved mystery 16 years later. It doesn't make sense, you know?
I mean, I agree, but things happen because there's no evidence, there's no witnesses. So speaking of no evidence, they then turned to Rob because they couldn't really find anybody. So, they start looking at the husband.
Mm-hmm.
So they looked at him to find out, well, where were you on the morning of April 15th, 2004? So he just conveniently had time-stamped receipts. So it was like you went to the store exactly at that time, which I mean it definitely could have happened. But he had a receipt from a store that he kept. Like, who keeps their receipts? Usually, like on your way out of the store, you throw it away, especially if you
Oh
just bought gum
no.
or something.
Oh
No, if you
no. Oh
if you
no. No,
bought
I keep
gum or
every
something,
receipt. No, I
are you
keep
serious?
every if I buy a box of raisins, Kai, I'm going to
You
keep
keep
that
that?
receipt. I keep
Oh
every
wow,
single. Do you know that last year I had 5 trash bags? You know those green lawn trash bags of receipts that were completely
that's
full.
called that's called
Yeah.
hoarding, Shar.
No,
It's
no,
called
no, no,
hoarding.
no.
No,
No, it
no,
used
no,
to
no.
be in taxes. Used to be able to get to reclaim certain spending
Yeah,
back.
it's only
So
if you do something for your business. Did he have a business? No, he didn't.
yes,
He
yes.
had a
Oh, you mean
business.
for him? Oh, for him. I thought you were saying me. Oh,
Yeah,
I don't know.
no.
I don't think he did. I don't.
Yeah,
I think I
obviously,
did.
if you're a business owner, then you keep your receipts. But again, it's not receipts just because you went to the grocery store. So that's
Well,
That
actually,
wouldn't
no.
make sense.
No, actually, no. Anything when it comes to food, if it's a restaurant, if it's food, if it's gas,